all the things you've accomplished, but I'm interested in you as an artist. When did you start, when did you discover that side of yourself?
You know, I always wanted to do artwork. My father and my sister both are very artistically talented. My mother, stick people, none of that whatsoever. But I always wanted to do that. And I don't know if you have ever seen it, but they give you little things drawings that you could do, and then you could send them off to like an art institute, and they'll tell you whether you have any artistic talents.
Oh.
Well, I did that, and they wrote me back and said, "Don't bother." And this is when I was in my, I was a teenager, and I was always doodling and drawing, and I thought, well, I'll just, you know, I'll send this off. And I don't know why, but I let them make me believe that I really had no artistic talents. So I started painting actually when I was 50, when I turned 50.
Wow.
And took some classes, and then started painting with some really, really good artists in my community in Springfield, Missouri. But they were very generous, they were very kind. Artists can be very, very giving. So they really inspired me, you know, and again, here I'm painting with some of the best painters in our area, and they're really giving me a lot of encouragement. So, you know, all of a sudden I realized I don't need to do any, I don't need for somebody to teach me how to do something that's coming to me naturally. And I think that's what I decided finally as I started painting on my own. And since then, you know, just that ability to let something come out. I'm fast though. If I can't finish a painting within 45 to 50 minutes, it's usually not going to happen. So everything that you see that I've painted typically took about 45 minutes to an hour.
So you want to finish it?
I want to start and I want to finish it.
What is zing?
Zing, that's zest, that's zippity-doo, that's, you know, that's Moxy. That's Moxy.
Okay,
that's
I saw that on one of your...
One of the paintings.
Yes.
Yes, one of the women. Zing,
yes.
yes.
And I was interested in the paintings. I think you described them as glory of women and something like that, or is that? The Glory of Women,
yes. The Women Speak project, of course, is all about women. And the artwork that I started doing, it was interesting. They all started coming together about the same time. I'd been doing a lot of landscape and a lot of abstracts, and all of a sudden I started doing women. It just, I haven't stopped. It just was something that just kept coming out, and then of course, you know, then I thought, well, I'll just make this the artwork for Women Speak, the Women Speak project.
Beautiful work.
Thank you.
I noticed that in the ones that I've seen, that there's arms missing and no hands.
That's because I'm not very good at those.
I thought there was going to be some amazing explanation for that.
No, those are actually fingers, and I have done them. They're very hard to do, fingered toes. Now that's why Michelangelo spent all that time. He'd go out and, you know, find bodies, and because he spent so much time really working on the anatomy and understand the anatomy of fingers, hands, and toes, and things like that. Because they're very hard to draw and paint.
I love them without it though, and I just knew it meant something.
I wish I could be a little bit more ethereal about it, but now I'm just being honest. They're hard to do.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
That's my honest side.
The Women Speak project, which you're well known for, I'm curious about. You know, you interviewed 1,200 women.
Mm-hmm.
What was surprising most about the interviews you did? What did you discover that maybe you didn't anticipate?
Not all of them were interviews. A lot of them were surveys.
Okay.
So there were 1,200 women surveyed, ages 18 to 80 plus years old. Where a lot of the interviews took place were in the focus groups. And in the focus groups, we actually broke them down into age groups. So in other words, we had a group of 20s come in, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s and 80s. And of course, when you bring women into a room, we really didn't know. We had questions that we were asking them, and again, part of the survey, we wanted to know the same questions. We asked the same questions to every single age group. We wanted to see what the response were. There were a lot of similarities, but over half of these women that we interviewed were fearful of growing older in our society. And you know, again, everything starts for a reason, and it really started for my own personal reason. In fact, I don't know about you, I'm sure you've talked to many, many women, and you find out why they're doing what they're doing, often started with themselves. Some issues, some concern, some question.
Yes.
And I was, of course, about ready to turn 50 years old, and there was nothing out there that was there to help me to understand what it was like growing older in our society, because I was feeling like the clock was ticking, things were running out, and I was in an age group that I'm not young and I'm not old.
Right.
And I think this is the confusing part for many, many women, when all they see time and time again is how to stay young and beautiful. Well, all these age groups pretty much had the same concerns. Women in their 20s, as well as women in their 60s and beyond, is why they not just really feeling like they were being pushed by the media, pushed by the marketers to stay young and beautiful.
Of course.
Now, as far as growing older, you know, again, it's not, you don't do it. You don't do it. And I believe that guilt and depression is really a common denominator, especially for women who feel like they've done everything, which I felt like I had done. I'd exercised, I dieted, I worked out, I did all the right things, but you know what? The clock's still ticking.
Yeah, right.
And who's telling me it's great? Who's telling me it's okay to be the way I am? So, and I found that to be the common denominator among all age groups. Now, the difference between some women is that some women have better strategies for growing older than others, and it's typically if they have had a great role model. Like we were talking about my mother, we were talking about my grandmother. Well, my mother, though, lied about her age her entire life.
Is that right?
She had more unbirthdays than I can possibly tell you. And unbirthday means no number. And it was funny because she moved back to Springfield where she grew up, and no one else knew her age, but everybody when she moved back knew her age. So the lying was done. She had to finally fess up to her true age. And I guess maybe being around that really concerned me a little bit too, because I kept thinking, you know, why is this number so important? What does it tell people that a certain number? But you know, let's face it. You hear a number of a woman's age, and sometimes certain things come to your mind. If she's 20, if she's 30, if she's 40,
sure.
If she's 50, and in our society, that's kind of what happens. You tell someone your age, and certain things start to click as far as stereotypes and the ways they think about you. And again, I don't think women have ever really had a chance to talk about those things, and that's what the Women Speak Project's always been about, is to give women a platform, a place to really talk about in a safe, comfortable environment with other women how they feel about growing older in our society, and that it's okay, and that there's so much other things that are important as far as their talents, their experiences. And we were talking earlier about life experiences. What are those worth? You know, how do women, how do we stop devaluing ourselves and really take on the whole life experience and the fact that we can really mentor and offer so much to other women? So anyway, I think the thing is that we found is the women that were successful or are successful are women who really have had good role modeling, they have good support from other women, and they are very, very self-confident, and they have a lot more going on inside than worrying so much about the outside. I'm not saying it's not important to look your best, because it is. But again, I think women need to start looking more and more inside as far as who they are and building that confidence.
Do you think a woman that's 30 or 40 or even maybe 50 could change maybe the path they're on if they start getting those role models and maybe making some changes?
Absolutely.
It's not too late.
I think one of the premises and one of the most important things the Women Speak Project is bring another woman along. You know, if you can do anything in this lifetime, you support another woman. You know, I've talked to professional women. They said they wish they'd had a mentor. They wish they'd had another woman who could really have helped support them, shown them the ropes. But unfortunately, they did not. Oftentimes, it was a male. And it's interesting that a lot of times women believe that men are keeping us down, but I truly believe if other women were more supportive of each other, that we would be far, far, far along in this game.